Parshas Pekudei, where all the various materials that were given for the Mishkan, the gold, the silver, the copper, everything else that went in, Moshe is giving an accounting exactly how it was utilized. There shouldn't be a question of maybe somebody siphoned off some of the material, there was some level of embezzlement, but rather how each vessel required that amount of gold, and so on and so forth. And therefore, Moshe is giving an accounting for all the materials that were given to the Mishkan. Just to give you a little bit of an introduction to this, it's very interesting. You know, we say, the Gemara tells us in Brachos, Kishem shvorchen al tov kach mevorchen al ra. As one says a bracha, shechianu, for good fortune, one says, Dain emes, one acknowledges Hashem. With Dain emes, when tragedy strikes. So the Vilna Gaon explains it with a allegory, and we speak about this. There's a certain type of gold. It's the most precious gold. It's called Zov Poz, Peizayin Poz. And this gold is so rare that, its value is 1 ounce of this quality gold is worth endless times more than any other type of gold. And there was this king, and this king, there was nothing he couldn't have, and he wanted to have one of his regal garments made of this special kind of gold. However, there wasn't enough gold available to make this kind of regal garment. So he sent out all his emissaries to travel the world at large to locate this gold. And he had spoken to his personal tailor, and he had said to him, how much gold do I need for this regal garment? He told him. So they traveled the world from one end to the other, and finally they came back with enough gold, of this special kind of gold, to make this garment. And he asked the tailor, how long would it take to make this garment? He says, about 3 years. He says, I'm willing to wait. And he measures him for the garment, and he gets to work, and he turns the gold into fiber. After 3 years, he calls the king and he says, you're ready to be fitted. And there's a mirror, the equivalent of more than his height, and he puts this garment made of this very exquisite, valuable gold on the king. The king looks in the mirror. He's never seen anything like it. He feels like he's going to pass out. The level of regalness of what it represents, every fold, every pleat, how it was made exactly with such expert, professional workmanship. He's never seen anything like it, together with the gold. And he praises the tailor for the work that he's done, so on and so forth. Then he says to the tailor, you realize I'm no fool. According to my understanding, all the gold that I gathered, that I purchased throughout the world for this garment, you didn't use all the gold. Because according to my understanding, even if you siphoned off a small amount of this gold, it's worth a fortune. And therefore, according to my understanding, you have to be put to death for embezzlement. That's what the king says to the tailor. Tailor is like shocked, can't believe it. And he starts explaining to the king that based on his assessment that some of or not all the gold was used, it's incorrect, because if you understand how to make a garment, there's certain pleats and there's certain folds, and there's certain gold which is not obvious from the way it looks, but to have that full look, you have to have all that gold there. But he should not suspect that he stole some of the gold. He says, no, you definitely did. So the tailor says, the only way I can prove my innocence is I have to undo the garment and undo all the material and turn it back to fiber. And then afterwards, you'll see that every ounce of gold, or even less than an ounce, everything is here. And that's what he did. Took him 3 years' work. He undid the garment to prove to the king that whatever he did was necessary to create this beautiful garment, this regal garment. So the Vilna Gaon says, throughout history, we have tragedies. And we have things which are not understandable. And it seems to be, as we say, it doesn't make sense. It's cruelty, it's harshness. But if you unravel all the events of creation from the beginning till the end, and you realize what's needed to create this beautiful tapestry, every nuance of event is necessary to bring it to that end result, to have the totality of existence, to bring existence to a perfection. That's what the Vilna Gaon said. Same idea. So the person who shared this allegory, Vilna Gaon, because I had mentioned, name it Ramchal. Ramchal writes in one of his works that even when we say Gamzu Latova, certain deal is presented to you and you want it, and then you lose the deal, and you realize it was the greatest blessing in your life that you never did the deal, because ultimately you saw who the person who went into the deal, it cost him all his levels of success. It brought him down. So you say, Baruch Hashem, thank God, I never got the deal. Only later did he realize in retrospect, it was the greatest bracha in his life that he never got the deal. So Ramchal says, even when we say Gamzu Latova, and we understand it was for the best, but in reality, that's not the reason why it's for the best. That's a myopic type of look. It's very limited to that moment. But in the truth, it's Gamzu Latova, because in terms of the spectrum of history, of the tapestry, this event has to be there, because in terms of the totality and the continuum of existence, that's why it's for the best. Of course, it's for the best, but what you say for the best is not truly what's for the best. For the best is the totality of the continuum of existence. That's what's for the best. That's the Ramchal. So here, Moshe Rabbeinu, we have this edifice called the Mishkan. They needed a tremendous amount of wealth, precious metal, other materials. Moshe is now going to give an accounting of exactly where all this material went, that nobody should be suspect of him, that maybe all the material was not used or needed to build this Mishkan. This is Elu Pkudei HaMishkan. So over here, Rashi says, Elu Pkudei, the Parshu Nimnu Kol Mishkalei, Nidvas HaMishkan L'Kesef L'Zov L'Choshes. All the coins that were given, whether it was gold, silver, or copper, or the weights, V'nimnu Kol Kelov L'Chol Avodoso. All the vessels are counted in each of the capacities of service, and how exactly what went into every one of the vessels. Elu Pkudei HaMishkan, Mishkan Ha'edus. The Mishkan, which is the Mishkan of Testament, Esher Pukar al Pi Moshe, which was communicated through Moshe, Avodas HaLevim, the service of the Levim, B'Yad Yisoma ben Aaron HaKohen. That was overseen by Isoma, the son of Aaron. Let's see Rashi. What is the reiteration of HaMishkan twice? These are the calculations of the Mishkan. Then it says Mishkan Ha'edus. It could have said Elu Pkudei Mishkan Ha'edus. Mishkan Shnei Pomim. Remez LeMigdosh and Dispashkein B'Shnei Churbonin Al V'Lusein Shal Yisrael. In Hebrew, the word Mishkan, Mashkan, means collateral. This is alluding that God took twice collateral from the Jewish people due to their sins. The first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because they violated the 3 cardinal sins. Second Beis Hamikdash was destroyed because of sinas chinam, unwarranted hate. So the reiteration with Mishkan, God, it's foretelling the future that Hashem will take 2 collaterals from the Jewish people in the future. That's what the Torah is alluding to by repeating the word Mishkan, which is alluding to the word Mashkon. Mashkon means collateral. It's interesting. The Mishkan was the reinstatement of the Jewish people, that the Jews themselves were no longer worthy of the direct relationship with Hashem. And therefore, you needed the Mishkan, you needed the medium of the Mishkan. Make for me the sanctuary, and I will dwell in your midst. So the medium for Hashem to dwell in the midst was the Mishkan. So there's a reinstatement. And then this, which means, and we receive a second set of luchos, of tablets. And yet, in this holiest location, the Torah is already alluding to the ultimate destruction of the first and second Beis Hamikdash. And we find that the Mishkan that was built by Moshe Rabbeinu is referred to as the equivalent of Zov. Anything that Moshe Rabbeinu was involved in, the Mishkan was fully hidden away and never fell in the hands of the enemy. This first and second Beis Hamikdash, whatever was there, ultimately fell into the hands of the enemy. Anything that was made by Moshe Rabbeinu, overseen at this moment, this was all hidden away, never to fall in the hands of the enemy. And yet, regarding the Mishkan, it's already alluding to the destruction of the first and second Beis Hamikdash due to the failings of the Jewish people. The question is why? Why is it alluded at this moment, which this is the height of their spirituality, and the reinstatement we're already foretelling how ultimately it's going to end? So what I'm thinking, that even after the Chet Egel, the Jews did tshuva, the luchos were broken, and we reinstated, it was not the same. The relationship is what is arm's length at this point. The Mishkan was needed because we're not where we should have been. And as a result of that, look what follows in the desert for 40 years. Every juncture, there's a new problem. They're about to go into the promised land. They want spies. And throughout, continuously, all kinds of issues. But if you recovered fully from the Chet Egel, and you are where you should be, what's all this about? So evidently, being arm's length only tells us it's only an arm's length relationship because you're not worthy and you're not where you should be. You're not where you should be. And as a result of that, ultimately, when we go into Eretz Yisrael and we build the Beis Hamikdash, which is the intent not to have this temporary setting of the Mishkan, then ultimately it's not going to last. And the Mishkan is God will take the first and second Beis Hamikdash as collateral not to destroy the Jewish people. Because the Navi says that God spilt out his wrath on Eitzim Vavonim, on the stone and brick, rather than on us. He took that as collateral, because if we wouldn't have had the Beis Hamikdash to take as collateral, we would have been taken. We would have been punished. But again, it's alluded to in the Mishkan, because the Mishkan already set the dynamic of the quality of the relationship, that the relationship is arm's length, but it's not at that intimate level. As much as we believed it was not.